What is up, guys? Let me straighten the camera out here on the vise. Um, went live a little bit earlier today and tied this guy here. Pretty cool little pilchard pattern, but we're going to tie something else now. This is kind of similar to the one I tied last night. If any of you guys watched that. Tied a little brown baitfish pattern with some bar stripes in it. So we're gonna do something pretty similar. The only difference is instead of the tan belly, we're gonna do an orange belly. So we're gonna tie, I don't even know what to really call this fly that we're gonna tie. Just gonna have a brown back, orange belly, and some stripes. Obviously a set of eyes on there as well. Should be a pretty good baitfish pattern for ponds, creeks, and canals, things like that. But I'm going to tie it on a different hook instead of one of those 1/0 J hooks, the short shank that I've been tying baitfish with. I'm going to try to tie it on a size 2. This is a Umka flats hook. It's basically like a streamer hook pretty much, but saltwater grade works very well for shrimp, crab patterns. I haven't yet tied a baitfish with it. I think actually I have more of like a streamer for freshwater, but it came out pretty well. So we're gonna take this guy off the vise here. This one came out great. Can't wait to use this wade fishing and fishing beaches and things like that. That one came out awesome, awesome, awesome. Let that cure until probably tomorrow morning before I throw it in the box. So, you guys have any questions, anything you want to say, feel free to leave it in the comments, but we're going to hop right up into fly tying. So, we're going to get this guy in the vise here. Sometimes with a different hook, you got to kind of adjust the tensioner here. It should be about good. Make sure that's locked in there. It's not going nowhere. There we go. All right. So with this fly, I was thinking of using some white thread, but I might go with a brown. I think a brown would be a better option for this one. So that's what we're gonna go with. Brown Danville's 210. Whoop. Waxed Fly Master Plus. My all-time favorite thread, universal, for pretty much almost anything and everything, unless you're tying like tiny little nymph flies or dry flies for freshwater. And you might want to go with something like a 140 instead of a 210, something a little thinner. And then the eyeballs, we're gonna go with pretty much the same eyeballs I've been tying them with since I got them. Just the cheap guys here. Very good for the price. Very universal, silver. So I'll go ahead and get this thread up on the bobbin, ready to tie, and get right into it. So I've actually been spending the past few hours trying to come up with a new leader formula. If you guys watched my live from earlier, I kind of went over leaders a little bit and showed off some of the leader formulas I kind of came up with already. Like a saltwater leader formula, like basically universal saltwater leader formula. I came up with a standard, leader formula that's pretty much good for anything and everything. And I have a streamer formula for throwing streamers, mostly freshwater, and also a dry fly formula, which that doesn't mean those formulas are specifically only for that one thing. They're just different types of tapers. So it's just a different way of the leader being tapered. What bait? If you mean what I'm tying, I'm going to be tying this. It is going to be an orange belly baitfish with a brown back. Pretty much very, very similar to this one. I'm going to also draw some stripes on this one we're doing right now. Very similar to this guy. Instead of the tan belly, it's gonna have an orange belly. Same eyes and everything, same thread, just different hook. It's gonna have a different hook and different belly color. That's the only difference. But this one I like a lot, a lot, a lot. Can't wait to catch some fish on that. So, got our thread on there. As usual, gonna start off with a very, very light um, uh, super glue coat here. Looks like I need to wipe that. Very, very light, just enough to kind of get it on there and hold the thread in place. So this one, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. So I'm thinking as I'm looking at this, because I've never tied a baitfish, I don't think, not one of these at least, with this long shank of a hook. So I may actually kind of go a little farther back on the shank of the hook. It's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that is the move. So that's actually what we're gonna do. I'll see how that comes out. So our thread's gonna be right about where the point of my finger is, right there. So it's not gonna be all the way up to the eye. So basically, I'm talking about the head of the bait is going to be pretty much right there instead of right up against the eye of the hook. So something a little bit different. We'll see how this one comes out. I haven't tied one like this yet, so a little experimenting here. I'm running kind of low on baitfish hooks. I have 3 left of the ones that I normally use, which are these live bait hooks, basically just offset J hooks. I mentioned before, I kind of like the offset because I feel like they have a really good hookup ratio, but I'm probably gonna go ahead and go with the regular baitfish hooks next time I go grab some. But we'll try this flats hook and see what happens with it. Should be pretty good, shouldn't be too off, but just get that coat of super glue on there all the way around it. And if there's any excess that's just like piled up, I'll kind of take that off and then wipe it off. We don't need all that. All right, now we can start our thread, but I'm gonna start it right about here rather than all the way up against the eye of the hook. We don't want to go too far back on this one because this is a bait fish. There we go, cut that flush up against the hook. All right, do one more wrap just to cover that end up. There we are. All right, so we'll start off pretty simple by, we'll always start off with the top material. So when we want our bait upright, the hook point will be on the bottom, always. Usually, 99% of the time, that's how bait fish flies are gonna be tied, unless, the exception of like a Clouser minnow, for example, one that has like a weighted eye, then you may do the hook upright with the presentation, but we're just gonna go with the norm here on this one. So I'm actually gonna go, since this is a smaller hook, that hook I normally tie with is a 1/0, where this one is a size 2. So the sizes from size 2 to 1/0, it'll go, size 2, size 1, and then it'll go to 1/0. So basically this is 2 sizes smaller, 2 hook sizes smaller than the 1/0. So we're actually gonna go a lot more sparse on the material than I normally even would, very, very conservative on this, opposed to what we normally do. So Just a very, very light amount, because we're gonna double this over, so whatever you cut it as, it's gonna be twice as thick. So we'll just cut it like that. That should be about the perfect amount right there. Let's see, where's my scissors at? What do I do with them? Oh, they're there. All right, got our back material cut, and just to make it kind of easy later on in this this tie here, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut the body material now, have that ready to go, and we'll just cut that, you know, roughly maybe twice as thick as the brown, probably not even as thick. Just a little more than what we did the brown. Keeping in mind that we want those bars to show up pretty good, and they'll probably show up a lot better on the orange than it will the brown. So I'll probably do about twice as much on the orange as I did the brown. Maybe just a hair more there. Just a couple hairs more. There we go. That should do it right there. All right. So like I said, with the fly fishing, you know, I've been spending the past like 2 to 3 hours just trying to come up with a bonefish formula, which is just a little bit more of a different taper to kind of turn over some really small flies on a longer casting type of taper. It's going to be made for pretty much long casting with really small, to turn over really small flies. Flies such as something like this, you know. This is a shrimp presentation I tied. And maybe one of these lives I'll go ahead and do a shrimp of some sort. They're a little more complicated for sure. These bait fish are really easy, but not too bad, not too bad. So we got our material cut. First things first, we'll take that back material and put it right where we want to tie it in at. A couple loose wraps, just about 2 loose wraps. Make sure it's even. And then a couple tight wraps to lock it in. And we'll even that up again before folding it over. Sometimes this thread likes to get twisted up. I don't like it to be too twisted. Couple more wraps. All right, now we'll double that over itself. And if you see, it's gonna be just a little bit of brown on the back, just enough to kind of give it that little back color there. Nothing too crazy. It's not like half the bait fish. It's gonna be brown. All right. So there we go, there's our back material. I feel like this hook will pan out just fine. It's a little long for my liking when it comes to doing these bait fish, but that's okay. Like I said, this is my first time kind of tying a bait fish pattern with a longer shank hook. I see people do it all the time. I see flies at the fly shop tied like that all the time, but I haven't fished one yet like this. Okay, so actually before I put this on, I probably should move this upside down. So now we're working on the belly of the fly. We're gonna have that orange belly, 2 loose wraps, and we'll make sure it's centered. And at this point, actually another thing you can do is kind of make these 2 colors Like sometimes they'll be a little separated. You can move them right onto each other just to make sure there's no gap to show the hook. So once you get it exactly, make sure it's centered, start doing a couple tighter wraps. Do you make jigs? By jigs, you mean like a hair jig? Because if you're talking about a hair jig, yes, I do. As a matter of fact, let me go grab my box of hair jigs. Bear with me for a second. I'll be right back. It'll be 2 seconds. So, I actually have this whole box of hair jigs that I've tied. You know, these are all what I tied for peacock bass down in Miami. I actually caught an Oscar on this one. I caught a pretty big female and another peacock in Naples on this guy here. Let's see, what's another one? This one here, caught some peacocks on that in Miami. I caught a peacock on this one. Oh yeah, I caught a couple peacocks on this guy here. My first ever peacock on a hand-tied jig was on this guy right here. But you can tell I was a lot more inexperienced when it comes to the quality of the hair jig. Like, look how thick that thread wrapping is there. Because I was also wrapping these by hand rather than with a bobbin tool. So I literally did these by hand, but it came out fairly decent. Like, let's find a fly here. I can't really find a fly right now that, you know, because most of my bait fish patterns or whatever have a built-up head with the thread. So do my shrimp. But I can get that, if I were to tie a hair jig again, I can definitely get that, the size, the thickness of that thread there, about less than a quarter of that size, you know, to where you can almost not really even see it. Like, for example, this one came out pretty good for tying it with my hands. That's, you can barely really tell about the thread on the head right there, holding the hair on. But I could definitely get that way smaller now with the bobbin tool. I have some other jigs in here as well. Here's a red, white, and blue one. I got this guy here. This is a baby blue, the chartreuse head. I have lots of hair jigs. Here's another one. But yeah, if you're talking about hair jigs, I can definitely make those too. Here's a white one. I actually have the exact same one, broke it off on a nice peacock. So I tied the exact same one when I got back. Also, I was like overloading these with material, which it's not horrible. It's not like a bad amount of material where it's like, oh my God, that's way too much material. But it is too much in my opinion to where if I were to tie one now, it would be a lot more sparse, you know, and conservative on the material because you really don't need that much. And I also have other materials now instead of these Congo hairs, you know, basically the same material I'm tying this fly out of is what most of these jigs are tied out of. I do have a couple though, like this one. This one's tied with a different material. It sways a lot better in the water. Same thing as this one as well. Different material, sways a lot better in the water. I caught a peacock on this on the bait caster. Super, super cool. But yeah, those are some hand-tied jigs that I tied. I don't really tie them much anymore because I pretty much only tied these just to go down south to catch exotic species on them. And it sure worked. It sure worked. I was catching, you know, Oscars, peacock bass, some other stuff too. Really, really cool to catch some fish on some stuff that that you make. So we're gonna get back to this fly here. How can I buy some of your hair jigs? They look fire. You know, I was really thinking of having like a shop, you know, selling some flies, some hair jigs. I actually considered maybe even selling some hair jigs when I first started making them. But I will tell you what, if you want to put in a custom order, DM me on Instagram, and I definitely can whip up a specific color that you would want or color pattern. And I can definitely make it come out a lot better than how those hair jigs that I just showed you came out, which they're really good. If you want to buy any of those ones, I'll probably cut you a deal on a couple of them. But considering the material cost and the time put into it, I would probably charge somewhere between, you know, $4 to $5 for one. You know, nothing too crazy, but you know, I'm not gonna go around selling them for $1. You know, so we'll get back to this little fly here. We'll just keep wrapping this up the hook shank a little bit. I got some trapped fibers around the hook eye. But yeah, if you would like to buy some hair jigs or flies, if you're into fly fishing, just let me know. Let me know. Contact me on Instagram. That's probably the fastest way I can get back to you, is by Instagram DM. I'm assuming if you follow my YouTube, then you probably know my Instagram, because I leave a link in every video to my Instagram account. I'll actually go a little farther up the hook shank for that. Just a little bit farther up. But yeah, the hair jigs work very well. Another thing I will say about it, I have not thrown it for snook or tarpon in my area, but I guarantee you they would actually work really good for like snook and tarpon as well. And even other stuff too. If you're fishing like flats, you know, some flounder, some trout, you know, obviously the color difference is gonna imitate whatever bait fish that you're going to imitate for. So, you know, if you want a pilchard pattern, probably, you know, I could tie a pilchard pattern with whatever colored jig head you'd want. I have quite a few options of jig heads that I could tie with. All right. So now we're gonna double that belly material back onto itself. I'm really curious how this one's gonna come out. So we're just gonna have that bit of hook in the front exposed there, but that's okay. A lot of times that's how tarpon flies are tied, just so you can have that hook closer to the eye of the bait, the fly I should say. And as far as the tie, that's basically it. Maybe we'll just do a few more wraps to kind of taper that head out. Very, very, very simple fly to tie. Very effective as well, you know. Very good on multiple species. How long does it normally take to make one? If you're talking about, you know, hair jigs and flies are gonna be about the same, you know, like a bait fish like this. If I'm not on live, you know, talking, if I'm just in the zone tying, I can whip up one of these, including doing the eyes and drawing the little stripes, probably 15 to 20 minutes max, like tops. So, but when I'm chilling on live, you know, I like to just kind of talk a little bit and just, you know, I'm not like trying to get it all done, you know, in one moment. So I'm just kind of chilling. But yeah, not too long at all. 15 to 20 minutes max. You know, and then you get into some of the flies like one of these, for example. Normally, if I'm going to tie about 3 of these at a time, like one after another, you know, I could probably go through it 20, 25 minutes each fly for all the steps. Um, so something like that, somewhere in between 20 to 30 minutes it'll take for one of these like shrimp patterns. Sometimes even shorter, just depends on, how I'm flowing through it. What part of Florida are you in? I have mentioned this before, but I will mention it again. I'm in the Tampa Bay area. I am not from South Florida. I know a lot of people will DM me and ask me, oh, hey, what's the best spot in Miami or Naples for like snook or whatever? But the truth is, I couldn't tell you. I know a few spots down south, and most of the snook and tarpon spots that I know down south are pretty much in the Everglades, basically in between Miami and Naples. But what I go down south for is the exotic species, primarily peacock bass. And Miami, also the snakeheads, which I have not caught one yet, nor have I caught a clown knife. But Miami has all the nice exotic cichlids as well that are super fun to catch. And pretty soon, hopefully, now that I'm into the whole fly fishing thing, I can take a trip down to Biscayne Bay in Miami and try to get on a bonefish. So Miami just has all the fish, man. It's crazy how good fishing it is. I am as well. Ever hit I can't even pronounce that. Hawisa. What? I do not know where that is. So I cannot say that I have hit it. Kind of sounds like a river of some sort. I own a cabin up there if you're ever trying to hit reds and make some content. As in redfish? I love redfish. I will say, if you guys don't know this about me, redfish is by far my probably number one favorite inshore fish species to catch, besides tarpon. Redfish and tarpon are probably right there next to each other, but the redfish definitely has it on a tarpon all day. Snook, I love catching snook. It's just I've caught so many of them in my life. I've caught, my fair share of snook where it's like, it's only really cool if I catch a snook that's like over 30 inches and it's like, that's a good one. But redfish, man, I will appreciate a 15-inch redfish all day long. It doesn't matter if it's a 50-inch redfish or a 35-inch redfish. I love redfish, especially when it comes to fly fishing too. That's another thing. That's like the number one species we have in Tampa Bay to fly fish for is redfish. And I love it, man. I love redfish. Out of snook, redfish, trout, tarpon, all that. I love it. Look it up. Pure undeveloped Florida reds, gator trout, and triple tail for days. Triple tail. Never caught one of those actually. I've seen them. I've actually seen them on buoys, but I've never caught one. I've heard they're pretty good to eat, but I do not eat fish. If you guys don't know that about me, I do not eat fish, and that is why I am a catch and release fisherman. That's why I'm all about fish conservation. Not only do I not eat fish, but also to keep the generations of fish going for all the new coming anglers. So I'm all about fish conservation. I may even do a whole live or something or a video talking about that, because it's a very important subject that I think a lot of people just kind of nod off, is fish conservation, and can't really get mad that they opened the snook season back up in Tampa Bay, because our snook numbers have definitely gone up since the red tide. So it is what it is. Obviously there's marine biologists who do the studies and all that about if we're able to really have people start keeping fish again or not. So it is what it is. I know our numbers of snook are quite high, because even through the red tide seasons, there were, I had spots that it was just loaded with snook. They hang out on the channel markers out there, and they can be reached by kayak all day. Oh yeah. Hogs up there as well. Only way to get to the cabin is by boat. That's awesome, man. So this little river thing you're talking about, is that salt water, or is it like brackish water that like runs up into fresh water? Because that's like my favorite type of stuff to fish, man. I'm all about the brackish water. My home canal actually runs from a whole freshwater like estuary and runs all the way out to saltwater backwaters, you know. So it's like I fish that in between from the brackish to the fresh. So, you know, a lot of the snook I catch are are basically freshwater snook that come from the saltwater, but they come up in the freshwater and feed on tilapia, Mayan cichlids, um, you know, all the freshwater baitfish species. So our fly here, the body materials are basically done. So I'm gonna do a little whip finish on that guy, and then we'll UV the head and put on a set of eyes so we can get this rolling, and um, then we can draw the stripes. That'll be the last step. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I like to do 4 wraps on my whip finishes. Some people do 3, some people do like 7 or 8. All just depends on personal preference. I think you need a minimal of like 3 to have a really good whip finish, but just like that, put a little bit of pressure. Now we can cut flush all the way up to the head. All right. So that's pretty much it for the tying. Now it's pretty much the arts and crafts. Just gotta UV it, put the eyeballs on, UV it again, and then do the trimming. Pretty fun stuff. Pretty fun stuff. So we'll take our UV resin here. I've explained before that this is thin, hard, very universal type of resin. I like to use it for all different kinds of stuff. So we'll just put a light coat for now. Just a pretty light coat around the entire thing, the whole head. Let's just get that all around there. And then we'll lock it down with the UV light. Make sure it's completely 360 degrees around the head. And that's pretty good right there. Pretty even head there. For the most part, at least. A little bit of that body material might be a little too far off on the side, but kind of too late now, so it'll be good though. It'll turn out all right. I have 2 Hobies, a truck to get them up there if you're ever wanting to expand your stomping grounds. For sure, man, for sure. I have my kayak, but you know, it's not a pedal drive. I will say the one thing I do like about my kayak versus a pedal drive kayak is pedal drive kayaks, I mean, yeah, you can stand up in them, but you know, it's, if I did have a pedal drive kayak, I would probably be standing up and hand paddling most of the time. It's a pretty cool feature to have if you're going to be paddling out to farther distances, and then you can, you know, put the pedal drive up and then maneuver your kayak. But you know, when you're sitting down in a kayak, you can't really see a distance, you know, to really even like sight cast fish. You're pretty much just blind casting everything, you know, and it's hard to like work a rod when you're sitting down. So that's one thing I do like about the stand-up kayaks, whether it's pedal drive or not. And I've been thinking I should do like a little mechanism on my kayak to where I have like a trolling motor or something on it. That'd be really, really cool. But I don't think a $400 Walmart kayak is meant to really have a trolling motor on it. You can stand in the ones I own. Yeah, those Hobies are really nice. I've seen them. I've looked at some reviews on them. I was considering kind of getting one, but I didn't have the money at the time. I was kind of looking into like different kayaks to get in the future, because I really wanted to pedal drive, because it really gets in the way trying to like hand steer the kayak while trying to fish, but then you lose the advantage of standing up and pedaling, you know, pedaling like pedal drive and standing up at the same time, because you have to be sitting down to do the pedal drive. So either way, you know, pedal drive's still better, because then you can paddle farther at farther distances, and then just hop up and use your regular paddle to stand up in it and maneuver around. Yeah, those things, yeah, they're super, super sturdy. That's what I've heard about those things. They're really, really good on that when it comes to standing up in them. So we got the UV resin. Now we're just gonna put our eyes on here. Definitely got to pick up some more of these eyes. I only picked up one pack. Super, super cheap, but I only picked up one pack just to kind of try them out. And I can tell you what, I really, really like them. So we'll just put a little dabble of UV resin. There we go. Take our little eyeball here. Just try to drop that on there as even as possible. Tell you what, though, if I come up to an area like that with a bunch of redfish, I'm definitely got to bring my fly rod, man. Because that would be absolutely awesome. Get on a bunch of redfish in the backwaters. Like, is it like a marshy type of area, like marsh grass type of stuff? Because if so, that's awesome. You know, like the Texas and Louisiana marshes with all the grass where all the redfish are. That's super, super cool. I know we have a lot of spots in Florida like that too, particularly more so North Florida. We have a lot of stuff like that. So that should be pretty in place. Yep, okay. All right, now we'll put a little bit of that glue right in the creases here to keep it in place. Start building up that head. This is pretty much like the same head that I use on basically all my bait fish, except for a select couple. 45 minutes from North Tampa. So that's probably like an hour to an hour and a half away from me. Maybe not. Yeah, about an hour, hour and a half. Not too bad. Just let that UV kind of sit that glue in there. That'll be layer number 1 out of about 2 to 3, depending on how much this fly needs. I feel like this one's gonna come out pretty good. We'll do the same thing on the bottom side as well. Just go ahead and do that first layer in the crease on the bottom. Next live I do, I'll probably go ahead and tie a bonefish fly, probably a shrimp pattern, and it'll obviously work for redfish and anything else that kind of eats smaller shrimp patterns. Something probably similar to this, but a little bit different. It's a lot harder to kind of put the eyes coming from the top there. A lot of times I'll put the eyes coming from, you know, the end of the hook a little bit out for my shrimp patterns, and we'll probably tie one like that. I have quite a few flies that I've already tied like that, pretty similar, just a little slightly bit different colors and sizes. All right, now we'll go ahead and go for the second eye here. Just put our little small glob of glue down. And try to get these as symmetrical as possible. That is the goal. We do not want an uneven bait fish. If I was a fish, I don't think I would want off, weird looking piece of dinner. Make sure it's as even as can possibly be, which that's about as even as can possibly be right there. It's not going to be, 100,000,000% perfect, but it will come out pretty much 99.999%. Just lock that in there, and we'll start building our layers. All right. Do our top layer here. Do you come to the Salt Strong chapter meetings? No, I do not. I do not. I actually don't think I've heard of that. Sounds pretty cool though. Sounds like something I would do. Yeah, the only thing I don't really like about how this bait fish is starting to come out is, I'll kind of show you guys once I get these eyes on here. Like before I go to trim it and then draw the lines. A little bit of that orange body is coming on the side of the top. I don't know if you guys can see that. Like a little bit of that orange is kind of right up on the brown, but hopefully that won't really affect the way that it looks. I may be able to put some UV resin kind of to hold it in place and then keep that brown on the top. Salt Strong has Tampa chapter meetings every month in Tampa. Great place to network, hear the latest trends, and get to know other English. Yeah, that sounds like something I would like to do. That's kind of what I thought it was by what you were saying. The meetings. It sounds really cool. Almost like in a little mini iCast in Tampa every month. Something like that, maybe. Maybe not. Sounds really cool though. Lock that glue on there. Stronger light would probably help. Probably just about one more layer on the top, and we'll be pretty good for these eyeballs. All right, I'm going for almost 45 minutes now. 44 minutes is what my timer thing says. Yeah, if I'm not on live or anything, I could definitely whip these little flies here, these little bait fish up in like 15 minutes. Easily, no doubt about it. Super, super easy patterns to tie. It should be about good there for the head. Only difference with this bait fish, obviously it's on a different hook, so we have a little bit of that hook from the eye of the hook exposed. Not too bad. Just move it back a little bit since it's a longer shank of a hook. Should still pretty much look the same to the fish. Unfortunately, I can't message on YouTube anymore, but I'd shoot you my number. If you have me on Instagram, you can DM me. My Instagram is the same as my YouTube, just Simple Florida Fishing with the same profile picture. Just the little peacock bass picture there. And on Instagram, I'll post usually a lot more stuff than I do on YouTube. Like YouTube, I'm pretty new at the whole YouTube live thing. I'll do little community posts here and there, but for the most part, I just post on my Instagram story, like, you know, when I'm doing fly tying or things like that. So that's basically it right there for our tie and the eyes. Might have got a little glob of UV resin right on the eyeball, but that's okay. Just kind of give it a couple more seconds up under the light just to further cure it a little more. Ooh. I want to go throw this in the canal tomorrow morning, but I actually start a new job tomorrow. Yippee! I have 0 social media besides YouTube. Yeah, good for you. I hate social media, man, to be honest. Ruins people, takes up time. I only have my Instagram because I run it for my YouTube channel to market it, but all that TikTok and Snapchat, you know, I don't do any of that. Used to have a Snapchat account, but basically it got deleted, and then I just never made a new one, and life's been way better ever since. So I just run my YouTube and Instagram kind of in accord together. So you could shoot me an email, actually, if you want. My email address, I have 2 of them, but I probably shouldn't say my email address on YouTube Live here. Got an email, yes I do. I don't know if I should say it on YouTube Live. I mean, I don't really see what can hurt from it, you know. No one's gonna get my password. There's no way in a million years that would happen. But if you want to shoot me an email, it's my name, which is Jeremy Heike at 0303@gmail.com. That's another way. I mean, I get a million emails a day, so I would just have to be on the lookout, knowing that one's gonna come in. Jeremy Heike 03@gmail.com. Is JEREMY HIEKE 03@gmail.com. So just shoot me your number over there, and yeah, we can definitely plan something, man. All right, that head is pretty dried. I might be able to do. It's a little short on the resin on the bottom side, so actually I'm gonna go ahead and do just one more coat there. It's a very light coat just to kind of round off that head a little more. Just a little more there. There we go. Make sure that's all rounded. Alright, that should be good now. All the way. It's more than we probably need, but hope I spelled that right. I'll shoot you an email. Yes, at gmail.com. No capital J. I don't know if that matters or not, but there's no capitals in it. And those other people of you who are watching this, if you try to spam my email, go on ahead, because I get a million freaking emails in one day and I never even check them. Just putting that out there. Sounds good, man. Sounds good. I'll be on the lookout. All right. It's just a little sticky still. Give it another maybe 30 seconds to a minute under the light here. I feel like I'm gonna like this one for the canal. It's gonna be pretty well. Umka also makes these hooks called backcountry, and they're more so like maybe like a little bit of like a wider gap and a little longer shank. So the shank is kind of like this, like lengthwise, but the gap is a little wider and bends in a little bit. And I think a lot of people tie like tarpon flies with them, but I feel like doing the baitfish patterns on that specifically for snook would be pretty good. But I'll fish this fly here with this hook and see how I kind of like it. If I do like it, you know, I may tie some more with these style hooks rather than those shorter J hooks. Chances are the shorter J hooks are just better because you can get that eye all the way up against the hook eye, which just in my opinion will look a little more natural. At least, you know, it does on these ones. You know, you can barely see that hook eye. It's just basically part of the head there. So we'll see. I don't think the fish will really care as long as the presentation is correct. All right. Pretty dry for the most part. So now, time to take it off the vise. Now what we're gonna do is trim it to shape, and then we'll draw our little stripes on it with a Sharpie. I probably could have went a little heavier with that back material because that brown is like really light compared to how much orange I put on there, but it'll be all right. We'll trim it up and see how it comes out. And there is another way to kind of tie these bait fish that I have not tried yet. It's like kind of put them on layers of each other going down the hook shank. I forget what they call it. I think I watched a YouTube video of a guy tying one like that, and he called it the EP tarpon streamer. So it's just built a little bit durable, you know. The only thing I would do different is because he glued the eyes right on the material rather than make a head for it. I would probably just make a head for it just because I think that's a little more durable. Yo, if you want, I work at a bait shop. We can put them up for sale if you want. Not sure how they'll sell, but at least they'll be out there. Yeah, that would be pretty cool, man. I can even make the packaging. I have my little baggies here. I got smaller bags for the smaller flies, and these bigger bags that I bought for the hair jigs. I definitely could make a bunch of hair jigs. But flies, you know, they're more unique because, you know, hooks, when you're buying some jig heads, you know, like they're obviously a brand jig head that you're tying a um, hair jig with. So you'd have to buy like a plain, you know, jig head, paint it yourself. So um, do you have fly fishing stuff in your shop there? Oh yeah, yeah. What's up, man? What's up? Yeah, I didn't know. I kind of figured that's who it was by the name there. Yeah. What's going on, man? It's been a while. I'll never forget that time we were fishing um, the one of my bass spots. I'm not going to mention it on camera here, but then I caught that gigantic carp. That was awesome. Sight fished him on the voodoo mullet. That was a crazy moment there. I'm just gonna trim this fly up a little bit, and we'll get to drawing the stripes on this guy. I'm gonna make this like a fairly small bait fish, like the distance from the eye to the hook. I'm probably gonna only go about that much back. Like I'm just gonna make it like a really small presentation, not like super super small, but a smaller presentation for sure. Just cut most of that off that we don't need. And then we'll get our rough shape right there. Obviously we're gonna round it off a bit more, but that's gonna be our rough shape. And we'll just round it out. Round it out. Very, very similar to the bait fish I've been tying. It's just a different hook. And I didn't know if I'd like this hook or not, but to be quite honest, I kind of do like this hook for bait fish. I may tie a couple more like this, who knows. I want to keep this this pattern a little more of a rounded type of shape, since it's gonna be imitating probably a cichlid or a tilapia of some sort. So I'm gonna try not to taper it too much, keep that kind of circular type of shape. Almost got my desired shape here. Right there. There we go. That is a little bait fish pattern. Just very plain. Looks very plain without the stripes. But we'll go ahead and add on some stripes there. Just the shape it is, actually. I like that shape. I'm pretty happy with that. Actually, I'm going to taper the back just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's going to be better. There we go. A little more of a really small, rounded type of shape there. More so like an oval than anything. How can I catch a juvenile tarpon? Let's see. That juvenile tarpon loves smaller presentations. Yes, yes, 100%. Like for example, this fly here is probably gonna be primarily for juvenile tarpon, opposed to, you know, even like this pilchard pattern that I tied earlier. It's just a little bit smaller, but you know, that little bit of a size difference goes a long way. I mean, obviously the pilchard will work for little tarpon too, but if you're gonna go for little tarpon, you know, obviously if you're using spinning gear, You're gonna want to go with like some really, really small stuff, like pretty much ultralight stuff. I mean, you can catch them, you know, on like, for example, like 3-inch NLBNs, but you're gonna have far more luck throwing even like a crappie jig. I've jumped little baby tarpon on crappie jigs before. That's why, you know, flies work really, really good. Because you can, you know, create your own to kind of imitate almost anything you want it to imitate. So now we're gonna draw the little bar stripes. I'm only gonna do 3 on this presentation since it's a pretty small bait fish here. That and blue tilapia about the size of a $50 on a circle hook. Yeah, I will say I've done pretty well. Anytime I've ever used like live bait in the canal, I've pretty much always hooked a baby tarpon. And whenever I go fishing, I pretty much notice them eating tiny tilapia that are anywhere from this big to about this big. And those tarpon are usually, you know, micro tarpon all the way up to about, you know, 3 to 5 pounds. I will say your best bet for catching a little tarpon is find a backwater mangrove estuary that has them. If you can't, it's probably a pretty good idea to also find some golf course ponds that have them, because they're pretty easy to catch, I've found out, in golf course ponds if they're there. Because golf course ponds don't really get hit that much, obviously. Therefore, the fish aren't as pressured and are more prone to biting. So I'm going to do 3 lines on this guy here. Hopefully this comes out properly. Got 1 line. Go for 2nd line. And the 3rd. Yeah, 3 lines is about perfect for this small of a presentation. And if I have to trim it up a little more, I also can. So that's one side. I'll go ahead and do the other side before I show you guys how it looks. It's coming out pretty good, pretty good. Not perfection by any means, but it's coming out pretty good to my liking. I may shape it up a little more just to be a little more of a circular presentation because it's kind of ovaled, but it looks pretty good. Sometimes that oval shape's a little better anyway, especially for what I'm going to be doing with it. And there you have it. That is our little backwater bait fish. Yeah, I may trim up that belly just a little bit. I might even oval it out a little more rather than circle it out. Because if I circle it out, it's going to have to become more of a smaller presentation. I don't really want to go much smaller than that. It's small enough as it is. I'll just take a little bit off that belly end there. I really don't even have to. But I feel like it'll come out much, much better. Good looking fly. Thank you, thank you. I live on the Hillsborough River and crush tarpon on crappie jigs. Oh yeah, they love crappie jigs. Definitely. That's pretty much just about anywhere you go. I've seen videos of dudes in the Everglades throwing crappie jigs in the little mud canals and mud creeks, and man, they're all over it. This fly is just about done. Just some fine tuning here. Finishing touches. And we already got our stripes on there, so. And there we have it, the finished product. Just a little backwater bait fish to imitate tilapia. You know, it could even look like a cichlid or a mud minnow of some sort, but really good bait fish presentation. Size 2 hooks, so it's going to be pretty friendly size for those tarpon that are, you know, maybe even under a pound, but I would say about a pound to 5 pounds, you know. Perfect little juvenile tarpon fly right here for the backwaters. If there's any stray hairs, just go ahead and pluck them out real quick. It's always a good idea to do that because they just get in the way. There's always some stray hairs, especially with this Congo hair. The cool thing about this Congo hair is, you know, obviously it's gonna get wet, but for the most part, it's gonna keep its shape. So it's not gonna be like craft for marabou where it like completely changes its, you know, shape. It's gonna, for the most part, keep that bait fish shape that we got going on there. And that's right there, boom. That one's ready to kind of sit out for 24 hours and then go into my fly fishing box. I would fish it early in the morning if I didn't have work, but duty calls. Gotta sneeze again. Ooh. Ooh. A little bit of those fibers get in my nose there. And that Sharpie smell too. But yeah, pretty good, pretty good. I don't think it's as good as this one. I personally like this one a lot more. Just the shape of it, the 4 bars. I mean, they both look really good. They both look really good. I like them both. I really do, actually. But this one, I really, really like that one. A lot. But yeah, there we go. There we have it. After over an hour of sitting here on live, we finally got to our destination. And the hook ain't too bad. Extends a little farther, you know, than the head, but still came out pretty good. You know, I don't think the fish, especially in dirtier water, you know, are really going to be able to tell much of a difference. So this fly may even work pretty good for redfish on flats. I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, that's about all I got for tonight. So that's maybe I'll go live again tomorrow, but yeah, maybe the next live we'll talk about some leaders, some fly fishing leaders. In my last live earlier today, I talked a little bit about fly fishing leaders, and it's so in depth and specific. You know, like some people, they'll tell you, you know, it's not that big of a deal what leader you want to throw, whatever. There's like one formula that works for everything, which they're not wrong. You know, like I do have a formula I came up with called the standard formula, and that is basically for any fly, you know. And then I designed the other formulas specifically for different types of flies, different weights of flies to throw in different conditions, you know, windy, not so windy. Like, for example, I have a my standard leader and my saltwater leader are pretty much almost the exact same taper, except the saltwater leader, it's a little more of an aggressive taper. Like it's a little longer of a butt section of the end section, and it tapers down to a little bit of a shorter midsection, and then, you know, another short midsection and the tippet section. So the tapers are just a little bit different. So like my saltwater taper rather than the standard taper, the saltwater taper is gonna kind of turn over those heavier flies just as good as those lighter flies, you know, and it's just a lot better, you know. Like for freshwater, you know, a lot of times you're throwing lighter streamers. I mean, some streamers that are like lighter, you know, or woolly buggers or even a baitfish pattern, like a shad pattern. So the standard version and the saltwater version are almost the exact same thing. It's just um, the saltwater version has a little longer of a butt section, um, and a shorter midsection. So that'll play out with also helping with casting in the wind, because 9 times out of 10 you go fishing out there in saltwater, somewhere in saltwater, and being on the coast and all that, you're gonna have a lot more wind than you would be fishing inland, going for like bass or something like that. Um, so yeah, I may do a live talking about just leaders, and I'll probably do that after I come up with this bonefish leader that I'm coming up with. I have 4 formulas so far that are prototypes that I want to try out and see which one casts a bonefish fly better on my bonefish line, which is on my 7 weight. So whichever one does the best is the one that I'll probably throw a couple different bonefish type of flies and just see how these leaders react. But yeah, that's about all I got for you guys tonight. What industry is the new job in? It is in lawn care and landscaping. So little background history of Simple Florida Fishing here. So I worked in the warehouse for about a year and a half. After that's actually where I worked when I first started making videos for Simple Florida Fishing, was in this warehouse building arcade machines. I worked there since I turned 18 pretty much, and I worked there for about a year and a half, and I just wanted to move on to something different. And then from there I went to I worked shipping and receiving for like a month, but that company ended up replacing me with someone who knew someone who worked there, so it's like I was still the new guy, and they just wanted to give someone else the job. They didn't want me anymore. So after that is when I went into landscaping, and we did lawn care just for probably a good month or two while I worked there, and then we started doing only landscape installs. Long story short, I made my way up quite a bit and became basically head of doing landscape lighting. I was very good and detailed with a lot of the landscape installs type stuff. We laid a lot of sod. We would do garden beds, like whole installs, and plant big giant palm trees in, with cranes and all kinds of stuff. It was really cool. We did like shell driveways, all kinds of stuff like that. So I worked there for about 7 months, and a little incident happened where it was not fair to the employees, and I was not going to put up with it anymore. They were treating all the employees there basically like children because of one person. And you get one rotten apple on the tree, you pluck the apple and throw it away. You don't uproot the entire tree. So that costed them a good employee who was responsible and showed up every day. And yeah, that was that. From there, I went to paver sealing. I started doing paver sealing. I did that for about a month, and they weren't really paying me that well. But when I first started working there, they told me within my 90 days, basically 3 months of working there, I would be able to negotiate a pay raise. And so I was looking forward to that, whatever. So about a month in working there, we have this whole group meeting, and they're explaining that, if there's this criteria goal that we meet, every month, and, we can give pay raises, but that's not going to be for a minimum of 8 to 12 months, and I'm like, I can't go a year making freaking what I'm making right now, like I'm not even getting by. So, and I'm working outside hot in the sun all day. So then I just decided to quit, and that was that. I wasn't getting paid enough. So I was looking for a job for the past couple weeks, and now that's when I have this job starting tomorrow, basically, with lawn care again. So we'll see how that goes. May work out, may not, but we'll see. Let's see what's going on in the comments here. Whatever it is, good luck with it. You gained a subscriber. Thank you. You can't outfish me. Bro got a trout sticker from Pennsylvania. You ain't ever seen trout, boy. Bro, I ain't gonna even cuss on my YouTube channel. Who are you, bro? You have no clue. I will outfish anybody in any place. You know, I'm from Florida, bro. Come to Florida. Come to Florida. I will beat you in any type of fishing that there is at any given point for anything. And that goes for freshwater as well because I'm a very good bass fisherman. Obviously, you know, in Florida, we have some gigantic bass other than Texas. So, what else we got here? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You already know it's going to be a hot summer, man. Yeah, for sure. Hey, man, I couldn't catch anything in that canal. Yeah, the canal, it's pretty specific. You got to dial those fish in, you know. There are certain times a day you have to hit it. And even doing that, you know, like I fished that canal for so long since the beginning of my pretty much getting into saltwater, like fish species fishing, you know, like snook and, you know, tarpon, redfish, trout. So I've learned those fish over a course of probably the past 8 years at this point. Our trout have teeth, Yankee. Yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, tell them. We got way different trout here. They ain't no little river trout. We got them big gator trout down here in Florida. They don't call them gator trout for no reason, and them fangs will stick you good. How did you get past the fence on the side of the house? At the end of the road. Oh, usually that's low tide. Low tide, you can walk right around it, and you can walk all the way down there. Only problem with going back there is two things. One, it's very overgrown, so it's really hard to fish. Um, you know, even using a regular spinning rod, it's almost impossible to just you know, even cast back there up in the little holes and catch the snook. There's so many snags, so many sunken logs and trees that the snook will run you into. And not only that, there's gators back there. So there's a lot of gators back there. Usually there's always at least like a 4 or 5 footer, and then always like a 7 or an 8 footer. And sometimes there's even more than that at one time. And a lot of times when you hook snook or whatever, as soon as there's any type of like splashing or anything, those gators will run straight to you. They are almost worse than dolphins. They will come and snatch your fish. I've had it happen before, and it is pretty tragic to watch a snook get completely crushed by the jaws of a gator. So I don't really go back there much anymore just because of how difficult it is to fish and the risk of losing a fish. I mean, there's so many snook up and down that canal that, you know, it's not like back there is anything really special anymore. It used to be. I will say when it rains and the canal's like really high and flowing, sometimes it's pretty good back there when they open the spillway, but it's not, you know, nothing too crazy. That whole canal up and down, you know, is pretty good because a lot of those snook, especially the bigger ones, are tidal, and they'll move back in the canal on certain moon phases and come in packs certain times of the month and start feeding and ambushing bait. So it's really cool. I'm surprised I found your channel. You also look familiar. Did you go to Northeast at some point? No, I did not go to Northeast. I did not. I went to St. Pete High School, not Northeast. But yeah, Canal's a pretty fun place. So we've been going now for almost 80 minutes on this live. So I'm just gonna go ahead and end it out here. Maybe we'll do another live tomorrow. Maybe. Talk about, well, maybe not. I'll be starting a new job. See how it goes. I don't know. I'll go live when I can. Talk about some fishing stuff, and I was thinking of doing a video. I actually have a video that's like I'm having difficulties with it. It would have been up today, but I don't know when it's gonna be up. It's like going on a month now since I filmed it. So it was actually on the full moon. So it was a few weeks ago, on the full moon of May. So it's quite some time ago. And I also have a fly fishing video I have to work on from wade fishing the flats. So I gotta get the ball rolling on that stuff. Yeah, definitely, man. But yeah, that's gonna be it for tonight's live. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me tie this little bait fish pattern here. I can't wait to go use it. Maybe I'll catch a fish on video with it. So super cool. Till next time, y'all stay safe, keep fishing, and tight lines. And I'll catch you guys on the next live of Simple Florida Fishing.